Hey, and welcome into the Big Ten Huddle. Happy end of week 5 for some of you. For others of you, you did not have so much fun in week 5. And we're going to get into that. All the teams that had fun, all the teams that didn't have as much fun in week 5. It should be a sight to see with talking about this time. So, looking forward to. Next to me, I have the performance tiers of the Big Ten in week 5. If you're listening on podcast, don't worry, I'll go through each and every one of them. Let's start with the game of the week, which was Oregon at Penn State, and Oregon comes away winning this one 30-24. Did not look like they were going to score 30 points in this game, but of course, double overtime. Oregon scores twice, Penn State scores once, and Penn State gets picked off there at the end of the game to lose, and it's pretty concerning for. No, I shouldn't say it's pretty questionable for Penn State. That's the tier I put them in, so that makes sense. But let's talk Oregon first. Oregon in this game, 29 of 39. Dante Moore is 248 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. Deer Hill Jr. had 10 carries for 82 yards. Dante Moore had 10 carries for 35 yards in this game, and DeCorian Moore, your freshman wide receiver, was the leading receiver in this game. Oregon outgained Penn State 424 to 276. Oregon was the more penalized team, but it did not seem to affect them very much in this game. And overall, Oregon was just they dominated the time of possession. They had more plays. They were able to run the ball effectively, get down the field better. And in this one, they had big plays as well, which contributed to things. Oregon had 4 plays of 15 yards or 4 passes of 15 yards or more, and then they had 3 rushes of 10 yards or more. Honestly, not all that different than what Penn State had, but they did have more chunks in that one. Penn State had 3 passes of 15 yards or more, but only 1 pass of 20 yards or more, and that was the late touchdown to make it 17-10 by Drew Aller, the pass to Devontae Ross. And this was a game where Oregon, I mean, they didn't get whatever they wanted, but for a good amount of this game, Dante Moore was able to keep them on the field, whether by rushing or by scrambling out of the pocket and finding somebody. He had a really big throw to Kenyon Sadiq at one point in this one. And there you could say there was a little bit of getting away with some stuff. There was a fumble that was called back at one point that I thought was a little bit questionable. But overall, in this one, I'm not going to harp too much on the refs. So I'm going to give Oregon the elite status in this one, albeit maybe Penn State didn't deserve as high as they were ranked, but they still were ranked very high. And this is probably the best win in college football at this point right now. You go on the road to the whiteout, number 3 team in the nation. You could argue Penn State wasn't really tested to be the number 3 team in the nation, but if we're going just strictly by rankings, this is the best win in all of college football so far. There is a real legitimate conversation to who needs to be the number 1 team in the country, whether that's Oregon or Ohio State. We'll see what the voters come out with, but any argument for those two is pretty valid, and you could go either way on it, in my opinion. I think as long as you have Oregon at the very least top 3, probably needs to be top 2, but at the very least top 3, I think that is considered a good spot for them. Penn State on the other side, pretty good defense in this game, held Oregon to only 3 points in the first half. They did score in the third quarter there later on. The drives for Oregon, I mean, they had a field goal in the first half, like I said, but then they had touchdown, 10 plays, 80 yards, 10 plays, 75 yards. This Jim Knowles defense is kind of, keeping everything in front of them type of stuff, which works out well when you can lock down in the red zone, but Penn State was not able to lock down in the red zone in this game. The fumble in the red zone would have greatly helped Penn State, but that did not happen. The runner was called down, and they did not end up getting that fumble. So Jim Knowles was really confident in him. I thought he was going to do a great job in this one, and he did until the second half came around, and then things were a little bit more open there. 2 of the 4 drives that Oregon had there in the second half went for touchdowns, and then the 2 drives that they had in overtime both went for touchdowns. 7 plays, 25 yards when their backs were against the wall, and then 1 play for 25 yards in the very first play of the second overtime. And then the very first play for Penn State, interception by Drew Aller. You had punt, field goal, punt, TD, for Penn State. And the problem for Penn State was even though their drives were able to be long, sustaining, 9 plays, 24 yards, 9 plays, 39 yards, you just weren't able to have enough consistency to be able to move the ball down the field. To me, that's why they are in this questionable category in this one. Not satisfied, but not concerning because really, you're not losing out on playoff hopes after this. At least you shouldn't be, in my opinion. But this is definitely a game. White out. You had Oregon where you wanted them 3-3 in the first half. You should have been able to finish the deal, and Penn State wasn't able to do that. So for me, it's questionable. You're questioning a number of things right now. You're questioning, is this team actually going to be able to put it together? Is Drew Aller the quarterback that can lead us there? I have a lot of questions about Drew Aller coming out of this one. He's going to have to answer those. He's going to have to be resilient. He's going to have to respond. We'll see if that can happen or not. All right, moving on to our next game. Let's go ahead and go to Ohio State, Washington. That was one of the other big games that we can get to. We'll do Illinois and Indiana in those games here soon. But looking at these ones here, we had Ohio State won this game 24-6. This was a game a lot of people were picking the upset of Washington to get over Ohio State. Now, Ohio State didn't score as many points as I thought they would. I thought this would be more of a high-scoring game, but a fumbled punt in the first quarter limited that for Ohio State. Credit to Washington's special teams for making that happen. And then also some conservative play calling in the first half as well. And I think Ohio State fans probably just need to get used to this being the thing because it worked last year, and Ryan Day is going to stick with what works, which is relying on your defense, limiting plays, and not beating yourselves on offense. You have the guys out there to go out and throw the ball around on everybody, and you'll probably do that in the playoffs when you make it there, but at least in the regular season, I don't see Ohio State being a team that is going to that is going to play a whole bunch of plays. In this game, they only played 62 plays, and I think if Ryan Day has it his way, that 55 to 65 range is probably where Ryan Day wants to have plays just about every single game for his guys. So, if you're an Ohio State fan and you don't like it, sorry, I think it's here to stay. So Julian San, he was 22 of 28, 208 yards, 2 touchdowns. Bo Jackson became the lead back in this one, 17 carries for 80 yards. And then Jeremiah Smith does Jeremiah Smith things, 9 targets, 8 yards, 8 catches, 81 yards, and 1 touchdown for him. You're going to have some people, still doubting Jeremiah Smith a little bit after that game, and I get it. It's going to be a little frustrating for Ohio State fans, but this is the product of when you only run 60 plays per game, right? You're not out here running 80 plays. This isn't the old days of college football, but biggest thing, what does he do in the college football playoffs? We'll see. But the biggest thing for Ohio State that made them elite, though, was the defense. They held Denzel Boston, Jonah Coleman, and Damon Williams to only 6 points on the day. No touchdowns from any of them. Damon Williams, 18 of 22 for 173 yards. Jonah Coleman had 13 carries for 70 yards, and then Denzel Boston, he himself only had 3 receptions for 26 yards, was targeted 5 times. But this Ohio State defense, I mean, what can you say? Just a great defensive performance, and I think this says a whole lot more about Ohio State's defense than it does anything else. Now, on the other side of this, for Washington, you are kind of questioning things a little bit, right? Damon Williams didn't have a whole lot of time back there in this one. You're questioning what things look like after the injuries. Zach Durfee goes down, unfortunately. He's had way too many injuries in his career. Any injury is bad, but way too many for his career. Really sinks for him, and then Carver Willis goes down in this game as well. You're wondering what's going to happen with your left tackle. And, for Ohio State to get 6 sacks in this game, that's just far too many sacks that you can go with. So the Washington offensive line kind of showed themselves in some of the concerns that I had for them preseason, but hopefully they can get it all together. We'll see. But I think this game is a lot more about Ohio State and how elite they are. I think a lot of people are going to latch on to, Washington's not as good or the trio's not as good. Sure, Washington's not as good of they're going to score every single drive. That was the big thing that was getting talked about with them the last couple weeks. They're not that good, but this is still a really good offense, and unfortunately for them, they ran into Ohio State, who has the best defense in the nation. And I think Washington will learn from this. We'll see how Damon Williams and these guys do, but I think they're going to learn from this. I still think this is an offense that has really good playmakers, really good players, and honestly, Jonah Coleman still ran for over 5 yards per carry in this game. He had a long of 34, which definitely helps out with that, but still over 5 yards per carry, 13 of 70. When you're down in the game and you're trying to throw to get back into it later into the second half, that's about as much as you can ask for. So sack adjusted, Washington did run for 107 yards in this game, 4.5 yards per carry. Like I said, sack adjusted there. All right, let's move on to our next game. Let's go ahead and go to the Illini. The Fighting Illini take down USC, and USC not having a lot of fun after this one, and for good reason. We'll start with you for Illinois. Winners start first here. Luke Altmaier was the player of the game for Illinois here. He was 20 of 26, 328 yards, 2 touchdown passes. Also had a receiving touchdown from Hank Beatty on a trick play, who was able to throw the ball to him. Caden Fagan had 14 carries, 60 yards. Khalil Valentine had 8 carries for 59 yards, and both of them did fumble and lose the ball. That was hard for them, but overall the defense was able to pick them up and win it in this game. Hank Beatty had 6 receptions for 81 yards, but Caden Fagan was the one that had the big touchdown reception. That was the big play, and then Justin Bowick had a reception for 25 yards for a touchdown as well from Luke Altmaier. Overall, here for Illinois, you're feeling really, really good. It's not an elite win, but this is a much bigger improvement from last week. Obviously, losing 53 to Indiana. You had much better offensive line play in this game. The secondary was healthy, and they looked much better. Albeit Jaden Mayava did find the fish a little bit to Makai Lemon. That connection still looked really good, but overall, in this game, the secondary, even though they let up a lot of yards and it made some of those things happen, there was still an interception that Illinois was able to get, and the secondary did not lose it for them in this game. If the offensive line wasn't good, they may have, but overall, the secondary is getting better. They're getting stronger. Jaheim Clark looks like a better addition now with him coming back from injury. And if you're an Illinois fan, sure, there's some concerns coming out of this, some things that you would like to be better, but overall, you're just ecstatic with the way your team responded, so you're satisfied with that. For USC fans, just one more late game loss, right? David Alano hits the game-winning field goal from 41 yards, and if you're a USC fan, you're like, why did we score with 2 minutes left on the clock? Right after the 2-minute delay, you score right away. Why didn't you hold on to the ball longer? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? And there's just so many questions about Lincoln Riley right now. Is he a good enough coach for USC? Is USC, in a situation where they can move on and go to a different coach, right? I mean, there's so much going on right now with this USC program. I think that if they get some more wins, if they rack up a win, maybe against Michigan, maybe if they give Oregon a really good game late in the year, that'll rectify some things. But if this is a USC team that we see go 8-4, 9-3, it's going to be improvement from last year, but it's still not going to meet the expectations of what many USC fans had for this team, especially after they started 4-0. We'll see what happens against Notre Dame as well. Those are some of the biggest games they have left that we need to be on the lookout for. That will be big parts of defining what this season is. USC fans, don't be upset. You lost to Illinois. Illinois is a really good team. They're a top 20 team this year. Maybe a little maybe a little too much to say they're a playoff team, but Illinois still has a path to possibly get there. We'll see if they can do it. But this is not a bad loss for USC. It's just compounding of more and more and more late game losses for Lincoln Riley, and that's tough for USC fans to swallow. So it's questionable. Can Lincoln Riley rectify? Can Lincoln Riley put together a performance that's going to get a late game win? We'll see. But right now, it's in question. So, all right, moving on. Let's go to, like I said, Indiana and Iowa. Indiana gets the win in this game. They win 20-15. This was a game where it looked like Indiana was going to lose, quite honestly. Iowa had the game I wouldn't say put away, but they were ready to take the lead in this one. If Drew Stevens just hit a field goal and the way Iowa's defense was playing, it looked like if they were confident and put it together, they were going to win this game for them. Drew Stevens misses the kick. Just a few plays later, Fernando Mendoza hits his wide receiver. Big play, touchdown. Let me make sure I get the stats on that exactly right for you. But big play for Indiana. A 49-yard pass completion and run after the catch for Elijah Surratt in this one, who makes a big victory for Indiana. Iowa, I think some Indiana fans were really not expecting much of a game here with how Iowa's kind of looked or whatever, but Iowa was able to get Indiana into their version and style of play and what they want to do. And Indiana, credit to them, this is kind of like the Michigan game last year. They got into this tough physical game, and they were able to come out on top. If this is anything like coming after the Michigan game last year, that's not what you want. But I think overall, every single team is going to be faced with a game like this at some point during their season. Every team that's going to be a playoff team is faced with a game like this, and it kind of depends on how you respond, right? And in this one, Indiana responded well. They trusted themselves. They trusted their coaching, and they were able to make it happen and get the win. Fernando Mendoza in this game goes 13 of 23, 233 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Roman Hemby carried the rock the most, 15 carries, 86 yards, and then Elijah Surratt, Omar Cooper Jr. They were the big receivers there for you. Surratt 6 receptions, 132 yards, 1 touchdown. Cooper Jr. 4 receptions, 55 yards, 1 touchdown in this game. For Iowa, Mark Gronowski did look like he possibly got hurt late in the game, so that's unfortunate. You'd like to see maybe that be a little bit better, but in this one, you have some issues, right? You have some questions about what your team is going to be moving forward. Do you have Mark Gronowski moving forward? Hank Brown played in this one. He was 5 of 13 for 48 yards and only 1 interception. So, no touchdowns and 1 interception. So, doesn't look great for Iowa if Mark Gronowski can't play. Kamari Moulton was a bright spot on this team, though. 18 rushes for 75 yards. Looked pretty good there, but you have a beat-up running back room as well right now, so we'll see what Iowa comes away with there. And then and Phillips, he did have 5 receptions for 64 yards in this game, but overall, you don't come out with the win. It's questionable if you have a team on the ropes like this. Are you actually going to be able to get it? If you have Oregon or Penn State on the ropes like this, can you actually get the win? Indiana was probably your best opportunity with the game at home, but you get Oregon and Penn State at home too. So you have other opportunities, other chances here. But I think, unfortunately for Iowa fans, this just kind of seals the deal that me and Zach have been talking about for a little while, which is that this just isn't a playoff team, and it sucks for Iowa fans. I don't take any joy in that, but it is something that, I don't know if Kirk Ferentz will ever get to the playoffs, even if it's 16 teams. I think he has a much better shot, obviously, but we'll have to see. Mark Gronowski coming in. Is he hurt moving forward? We'll have to see after that. So very interesting stuff, but Iowa gets the questionable mark for me. All right. Let's move on to let's do Rutgers, Minnesota. Got 2 more games left. Rutgers, Minnesota. We'll start with Minnesota, team that got the win. Minnesota wins this one 31-28. Drake Lindsey was phenomenal, 31 of 41 in this game, 324 yards, 3 touchdown passes. You did not have any any rushing offense. No Darius Taylor, no A.J. Turner, so they only ran the ball 18 attempts, 35 yards, 1 touchdown. That came from Ejeboye, I believe is how you pronounce his name, but not a great day of running the ball for Minnesota, but you can go and rely on your redshirt freshman quarterback to still go out there and throw for over 300 yards and 3 touchdown passes. You got to love it. You love to see it for him to be able to do that. I like that Minnesota went after the big play more often in this game, really fit what I thought was important for them to do and for them to be able to win this game. against Rutgers, and then they obviously had the receivers to do it as well. Jalen Smith, 103 yards, 1 touchdown. Lemeke Brockington, 5 receptions, 41 yards and a touchdown, and then Javon Tracy, 6 receptions, 54 yards and 1 touchdown. Really spreading the ball around. This is what you love to see out of a young quarterback for Minnesota. So you're very satisfied coming out of this one, even though Rutgers is not a great team and it was a close win. You have questions about the running game, but overall, you're very satisfied with Drake Lindsey and what he was able to do in this game. So feeling good about that. On the Rutgers side, you're questioning a lot with the defense right now. Athan Kaliakmanis, 21 of 34, 249 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Antoine Raymond, 26 carries, 161 yards, 2 touchdowns. So you feel good about the offense once again, but the offense can only play so well and you not win these games. So as you continue to see the offense play well and the defense not play well, and they are losing these games, you are going to continue to have questions about this team, and really not even questions. I put them in the concerning category right there because these are real concerns for Rutgers. You are consistently seeing good offense be squandered with not good defense, and not even not good defense, but not even usable defense at this point. And I'm not trying to take anything away from Minnesota because they did that to them, but overall in this game, you've got to see a defense that can hold Minnesota better. Now they did for a good amount of this game. I say a good amount for a part of this game. Rutgers was up 14-0 in this one, but Minnesota in the second quarter, even with not being able to rush the ball all that much, Ejeboye got a 2-yard rush for a touchdown. Lemeke Brockington had an 8-yard reception to him from Drake Lindsey, and then in the second half, it was 3 scores by Minnesota, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, and Rutgers only getting 1 touchdown. You also have concerns about the second half for this Rutgers team, right? You had issues against Ohio, which could have just been attributed to, Greg Schiano sat on it. Okay, if it was just that one time, maybe you could think that, but you had issues against Iowa, you had issues, like I said, against Ohio, and then in this one against Minnesota as well. Is this offense going to be able to continue to just not score as much in the second half and win games? I don't think so. This offense is going to have to be scoring all game long if this defense stays the same. Maybe you can get away with it more if the defense gets better, but I don't think so. So I'm concerned for Rutgers right now. And then the only team that won all week that I have in the category concerning is Northwestern. And really, I mean, you're concerned for Northwestern because this is a UCLA team that is bad. It's still bad, and I don't think will stop being bad. And you still did not get a great performance from Preston Stone in this game, 12 of 18, 115 yards. He did have a touchdown, but no interceptions. But it was Caleb Kamalafe, who had 27 attempts, 119 yards, 1 touchdown. So you like to see that out of your, I believe he's redshirt sophomore, running back there with Hyman. Hyman did have 8 rushes for 58 yards in this one, but you're starting to see a less and less guys play and more injuries occur and stuff. And Griffin Wildy did have 7 receptions for 98 yards and a touchdown, but again, it's just nobody else had more than 2 catches, and your guy that did have 2 catches was Wagner, who had -8 yards in this game. So even though you got the win, if you're Northwestern, you're still very concerned if you're a Northwestern fan because you think this might be the last win of the season that you just got, and this is a 2-3 football team. 2-3, 2-4. This is a 2-4 football, or 2-2. 4 games they've played. This is a 2-2 football team right now, and I don't know if Northwestern wins another game this season. Unfortunately, UCLA gets 2 field goals. They get a touchdown late. Nico Imaliava, it's awful. He's not awful, but this team is awful, and they are squandering whatever money they paid for him. He's out there. He's playing hard. He's doing everything he can. 14 rushes for 65 yards, 19 of 27 for 180 yards and a touchdown, but it's just not good. It's not good. They don't have the wide receivers. They don't have the offensive line. They don't have the running backs. They don't have the defense. UCLA just doesn't have it. And I don't know if I have much more to say on that. They had relatively similar total yards in this game, but the difference was Northwestern was able to run the ball, and Northwestern was able to control the clock, and UCLA, they weren't. So that is your Big Ten performance tiers in Week 5. Please do like, subscribe. We appreciate you doing all that stuff. If we are going to look at FanDuel for how the performances this week have changed things, then we can look no further than the conference winner odds, which brought Oregon up to the top spot on FanDuel. They are plus 155 on FanDuel to win the Big Ten right now. Ohio State plus 175. So you could say Oregon had the most elite performance out of anybody, which I kind of talked about earlier. And then teams that kind of dropped a little bit. Well, I guess if we're going to look for teams that dropped a little bit, let's go to the playoff. They don't have the playoff ones up, unfortunately. Yeah, they don't have the playoff ones up. So, but Dante Moore is your leader for the Heisman Trophy at this point. So if you want to say anything about that. And Jeremiah Smith, third highest. Dante Moore on FanDuel right now is plus 750. Jeremiah Smith is third right now at plus 1,000. Fernando Mendoza, he stays in the top 5, but he's no longer the leader at plus 1,200. And Julian San is 7th right now at plus 1,700. Not really any other Big Ten players. Drew Aller's still up there. Not up there, but he's like in the top 20, plus 3,000. It's kind of crazy. Bo Prabula has the same Heisman odds as Drew Aller at this point. That's pretty crazy. All right, that's all I got for you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Have a good one.